Special welcome to another podcast. I am excited to have Carole join me all the way from London. Today we'll be focusing on stress management. Carole, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Sarah. It's absolutely delighted to be with you in South Africa.
Fantastic. Carole, before we get into the core of our conversation, I would love our listeners to just get to know a little bit about who you are and just the career journey that you have walked to get to where you are. And also just to give us an overview of the kind of work that you're involved with currently.
Well, let me just give you an overview first. Okay, my name is Carole Spiers. I am CEO of the Carole Spiers Group, which is a stress management and employee well-being consultancy, which I established in the late 1980s. And at that particular time, stress was being talked about, but not quite as much as it's being talked about today. So it was quite innovative at that time to start a stress consultancy. So what do we do? Well, my background is in psychology. I'm also a trained counselor and I'm a public speaker. And it was with that in mind that I actually created the stress consultancy, because there was a need, and still is. That's the point. There still is a need, Sarah, to actually help us to reduce stress and remove the taboo that there is about stress. So as a counselor, I see people at the sharp end, people who really are experiencing challenges in their life, both home and at work. And they come to me and they talk to me, whether it's, I have a lot of international clients, so whether we do a lot of Zoom calls now as well, and we talk through some of the challenges that people are facing today. So it's been a long journey. Another part of my role is I'm also the founder of International Stress Awareness Day. And I'm also the chair of the International Stress Management Association, which is a management association body which provides help and support for people who are actually experiencing signs and symptoms of stress. And we do that through our team of counselors, through our team of consultants and psychologists who are members. So in a nutshell, I mean, I live, eat and breathe stress sometimes as well. And it really is, it's an important time for all of us at the moment, because there are challenges around the world, there are challenges at home. We see it each and every day, the cost of living crisis. So we see it all the time. So therefore, the support that is needed by individuals to help them to reduce stress and increase their health and well-being is getting more and more so day by day.
Fantastic. Carole, part of the things that I love diving into when we do these conversations is just to bring the humanness to whatever we're discussing. I know that before we started recording, you did tell me that you're a mom. Do you want to just share a little bit about that side of your life?
Yeah, that side of my life is my personal life. Mind you, I'm not quite sure what's the difference between personal and business anymore, because I seem to work very hard. That to one side, my partner would agree with that, by the way. So I have a partner, I have 3 children, I have 7 grandchildren, in fact, 7 grandsons. So my football skills have increased over the years. I'm still not very good at it, by the way. I'm very, very blessed to have the family that I have. I really am. And yes, I do work hard. It seems to be as I get older, I'm working harder all the time, but I suppose that's the same for a lot of people. But I'm really very blessed with my family. Really, I'm very, very blessed, and they're all doing different things in their lives, and the kids are in school. So yes, I'm very happy and very lucky, very, as I say, blessed to have the family life that I have.
Wonderful. Let's get into the conversation by starting with definitions. I'm a teacher by profession, so I love to define things. Let's start by defining what stress is. What is stress? Everybody's talking about stress, but what is it exactly?
That's a good question, Sarah, to start off with, because there are many misconceptions about stress. There are a lot of people listening to your show who may think that stress is good for them. And if I say to them, well, is stress good for you? And a lot of people would put their hands up and say, yes, Carole, stress is good for me. And I'll say, no, actually, you're not right. Stress is not good for you. So then what is good for you? Well, Very simply, pressure is good for you. Pressure is what you can manage. Pressure is what gets you up in the morning. Pressure is what motivates you. So then what is stress? Well, very simply, it's too much, it's excessive pressure. So in simple words, you don't need many sentences about the definition of stress. Even as a teacher, we can cut that back to the chase and say, pressure is good for you, stress is not. That's all you have to remember. So a little bit of pressure, fine. A lot of pressure, too much pressure, tips you into the point where you're not managing, you're not coping, whether that's home or at work, it makes no difference. But that's the particular boundary that you're coming across.
And great definition, right? So then, has stress today changed post-COVID? We've seen the Great Resignation. I'm sure you know about the Great Resignation. You know, due to stress, a lot of people had to leave, their work. What are you seeing? What are the trends? Are there any changes post the COVID?
There are. I mean, COVID was a very difficult time for so many people, as we know, around the world. Everybody was affected in one way or another. So that was the shock and that was the challenge that we had to manage. And we did, and we came out the other side of it, albeit with a lot of learning and sometimes a lot of pain and sadness that came from that. But your question's interesting because it's saying, are things different today, particularly post-COVID? And in many ways, it's the same, but in other ways it is different because we're having to manage things like hybrid working. Not everybody's going into the office. We're trying to manage this connectivity. We always need to be, on our phones the whole time. There's this point where, you feel that you should be seen on the phone or on your computer or on social media. So there's a huge pressure, Sarah, in terms of what we have to manage. Workloads are increasing. Managers don't necessarily know how to manage their employees if they're working from home. We'll come on to managers a bit later, the role of managers, but they certainly play a very key part in helping to reduce stress, helping organizations and employees to reduce stress in the workplace. So is stress different today? Yes, there are different stressors. Is it worse today? I wouldn't say it's worse, but there's certainly many challenges that we have today. But there were challenges 10 years ago as well. So is it different? In many ways, it's the same, but in many ways, there are changes as well.
So you raise a very good point around being online and connectivity, especially post-COVID, because a lot of people are working hybrid, like you said. What role does technology play in increasing people's stress within their lives, their workspaces?
It plays a very large role. I think it's because, this little machine, it can take me from here to South Africa in a second. We know that, it's wonderful. However, people are tied to this machine. People are tied to their phones. There is an addiction that we have about what is somebody wanting from us? What is social media saying to us? People are keeping in contact with their social media friends more so than their everyday friends who they see face to face. So technology is a phenomenal tool. And obviously with AI now as well, it's going to get more and more. And we know that. But there are people who sometimes are being left behind, particularly, may I say, Sarah, the older generation who may not necessarily be able to keep up exactly with what's happening. So therefore, they may manage their phones. Yes, that's fine. Then you start talking about apps. You start talking about, I want to book a train ticket. Well, you can only book a train ticket now. You can't go to the train station in London. Well, I think you think you can at the moment, but it's changing. If you go to the train station in London, in the future, you'll have nobody to speak to. You'll only have a machine. So that means they're taking away the human side, the human contact. So I know AI plays an enormous role with all of us, and it does, and that is the future. But we really must not forget the human contact, this eye-to-eye conversation, the kind of conversation that we're doing today is so important for us, for people listening, for people watching, and the future. And then take that on to the next stage, Sarah, which is, what about our children? Our children are being brought up to only manage this. They don't know really how very easily to do the eye-to-eye contact. They go out with a group of friends. You see them sitting around the table. This is them going out, all sitting on their phones, talking to somebody else. And the same goes for industry. If you're an employee in industry, there's this need to be seen to be there. There's this 24/7 connectivity. And that's what is there for people. There is this need to be seen, a need to do, the need to respond. And it's this 24/7, not literally, of course, but there is this expectation that people, that bosses may have, I'm only saying may have of their employees to actually be on their phones or to answer an email. Is it because they want to? Sometimes it is. Sometimes people think, well, of an evening, I'll just answer my emails, clear the desk, but they're not necessarily switching off, which is what, as a stress consultant, which is what I would recommend. So therefore, this 24/7 connectivity, a part of that is an expectation externally, but a part of that as well is what we want to do ourselves. So there is an addiction that we have to actually be on our phones, answer our emails, be on social media. Why? Well, FOMO, fear of missing out, maybe one issue, but it's not just that. It's also an issue of this continual bombardment of emails. You turn around at your email overnight, you close your email, 5:30. Maybe you've cleared the decks. And by the time you open your email again in the morning at 9 o'clock, you've got another 20 to start. And it's very difficult to manage those kinds of situations. So you have to have boundaries for yourself. So never before, Sarah, has the role of looking after yourself been so important, because the employer can't do it for you. Yes, they can help. So the employee needs to be open with the employer about any work overload, any boundaries they're not sure of, about lack of autonomy, about organizational change. That's what they need to be aware of and to talk about, which means the employer needs to have a healthy workplace culture whereby that employee feels open, where the employee feels able to open up and speak out to their employer. Because if you have a culture that's not healthy, where people feel bullied, where people feel unable to speak up and speak out, then you're going to have a situation where employees will not open up to their employers. So there is a dual responsibility here for the employer and the employee together. The key is the manager. The key is listening to your employee. And the key is having a healthy workplace culture and shouting that from the treetops.
Excellent tips that you bring to the fore, and this is a very, very important conversation. And you have touched on culture and the responsibility of the employer. I would love us to bring some skill sets for the employees themselves. If you're in a toxic environment, how do you handle this situation where the boundaries of working are now almost blurred? At any given point, you've got that email, and the expectation is that you've got to respond now. And people have got to see you that you're online. Otherwise, people think you're not working. What should employees be doing to bring balance within their lives?
Well, this is what we're coming back to what I said to you, which was, if we have a healthy workplace culture, then that employee would hopefully, I'm only saying hopefully, would hopefully have the confidence to speak up and to speak out, not to whinge and to moan, but to say, this is the situation. If the employee feels that they're experiencing work overload, then to have the confidence to speak up to their employer. Now, if the employer does not have that listening ear and does not know how to listen to their employee, then the employee probably won't speak up. What can they do, Sarah? Well, you know something? At the end of the day, they're going to do one simple thing. They're going to vote with their feet. They will leave. So the employer, that company, will lose a lot of very good, well-trained personnel because they didn't listen. If they listen, There may have been an opportunity for them to do something about it. Because ultimately, people are people. If I don't get from my boss what I need, if I don't get from my company what I need, if I don't feel valued and worthwhile by my organization, then the chances are I will, as I said, I will vote with my feet. I will leave. And you may be very sorry to see me go because you've taken years to train me. You may wish to yourself, you may wish that you'd actually given me some time and some opportunity to talk about maybe I felt like I was being bullied at work. You would wish that were the case, but it's too late. So your reputation as an organization may actually go downhill very, very quickly. And we know it takes years and years for an organization to get to have a reputation where people want to come and work for that particular company. And in one fell swoop, it's over. It's finished because people are now talking about that organization and people are saying, I don't want to work there. Their reputation is really bad. They've got a toxic culture. I say to Sarah, who wants to work, chooses to work in a toxic culture? I don't care how much money you pay me. I do not want to work in a toxic culture. So you want to work in a culture where you do feel valued and worthwhile, a culture where people will appreciate and actually do something simple like thank you, give a thank you to you because you've done something. And then how do you feel? Well, do you know what I'm saying? You might not be able to pay me any more money, but I'll feel great. You'll get my trust. You'll get my following because I trust you and because I like you. At the end of the day, with all the tech in the world, you cannot stop the most important thing, which is the communication of building relationships. We know tech is there. I can speak to you via tech to South Africa, to Joburg, to London. Perfect. But what would it be like if we actually sat down, had a cup of coffee together, kicked out, put our feet up on the sofa and chat? That's what should be introduced into organizations. And what is difficult is when you are working in a hybrid way, managers do find it a challenge to manage their employees at home and at work. Because let's be quite honest, Sarah, a lot of managers are promoted into positions because of their technical expertise, because of their IQ, not because of their EQ. And if you say to a manager, you're going to become a manager of XYZ amount of people, and they'll say, well, I'd like to be promoted. That's lovely, Carole. I really appreciate that, but I'm not sure about this people business. And they'll say things to you like, well, don't worry, John, you'll learn on the job. Well, do you know something, Sarah? You don't learn on the job. Or if you do, at whose expense is it? So managers need to have the EQ skills. That needs to be in parity with their IQ skills. And they need to have that because managers aren't born to be necessarily good listeners. They don't know how to do it. And there's no blame. There's truly, truly no blame. It is like, if you're not trained, get some training. You won't necessarily learn on the job. So you can see where we're honing in, we're keeping away from the toxic culture. Vote with your feet if you really can't change that. And as much as you want to, you've tried and you really can't. I'm going to say to you one simple thing, 2 words, get out. Because you're not going to change the culture of that organization if it's toxic. And you may say to you, but it's not fair. It's not fair. Why should I leave? And you know something, Sarah? I'd say to you, I agree. However, here's the however. What else are you going to do? Because I've seen too many people burn out and have a breakdown because of a toxic culture. Fair? No. Fact? Yes. State of the world? Yes. So let's just deal with it.
Great insights, and I just love your demeanor, and I think people need to gain some level of confidence as well, Carole, to be able to deal with these issues. I'm thinking, like you said, people need to learn to speak up, and people are also talking about setting boundaries where you say, this is the time that I start work. and this is the time that I end work. And if the time for ending work comes, people should be allowed to close those laptops so that they can attend to other things. Then they're not just working around the clock and feeding into this toxic culture.
Here's your problem from what you've just said. The problem is this: if the employee is working in a hybrid way, and they may choose to work in the morning, in the afternoon until 3 o'clock, and then they want to work from 6 o'clock till 10 o'clock, that's their choice. How does the manager know? This is the challenge. How does the manager know whether they can email them at 6 o'clock at night or not? Or what, there's a communication here that needs to be had. So the employee needs to have an open conversation with the manager, because it may not be you close your laptop at 6 o'clock. That may not be the case, because I've just been to collect my kids today at 3:30, given them dinner until 5:30. So therefore, I want to work this evening. So there needs to be an open conversation. That's how you manage your remote teams. That's how you manage people in a hybrid way. It's different for everybody. And a lot of people now are putting notices, notices on their computer, signature strips saying things like, if I don't answer you straight away because I'm working in a hybrid way and I might be get back to you tonight. Those are beginning to happen. But the manager who is managing their team needs to know exactly what everybody wants. Now, if they've got only 2 people in their team, it makes it easy. John, Mary, what do you fancy? Can I speak to you of an evening? Can I not speak to you of an evening? What do we do? Your challenge is that you're managing now 300 people. Now, you don't know, truly, you don't know what those 300 people want. They all have their lives. You spoke about work stress. You've spoken about, Sarah, about home stress. Everybody's got people. Some people have kids to feed. Some people have partners to look after. Some people have mothers, parents, whoever. So you don't know. So all you can do as a manager is to ask the employee. You reach out, and what you're saying is 3 words: talk to me. And if you're saying talk to me, you need to be in a position to do 1 word: listen. Because employees do want to share if they feel, coming back to the culture, if they feel able to do so. And they'll feel able to do so if the manager actually takes the lead first, which is, guys, I don't know what you all want. I don't know if you're working of an evening. Please tell me what is the case. So have that conversation. And it may be via Zoom. Zoom works very well. We know that. Look what we're doing today. It's very good. Technology is wonderful. Use it. Use it. And also, as a manager managing the people, make specific times to have those chat conversations. What do I mean by chat? Well, they literally are, let's have a chat. How are you? How are your kids? How are your parents? How's your partner? What did you do at the weekend? And so many people say, oh, Carole, I haven't got time for all of that. And I'll say, but you're trying to build a relationship. If you're building a relationship, then that's what you have to do. Can you do it for 500 people? The reality says no. But then you divide your 500 people up into smaller amounts. So you have different supervisors, you have different managers, you have other managers who will speak to smaller groups of people, but they're responsible to you. You want to have an open culture. And even for 5,000 people, you can have an open culture. So really, it is up to you. Does the manager play a role? Yes, you're probably gathering and saying so. The manager plays a very important role. And there's no blame at their doorstep to say you're not asking, you're not speaking, you're not listening. If they haven't been trained, the reality is, Sarah, they're probably not doing it. And let us not forget, the manager has a lot to do themselves as well. Huge amount to do. And managing people is just one of those things.
Yeah. So also gathering that in this new dispensation, there's a need for agility as a manager and being able to adapt as well. People are quite stuck in the way they manage people. They still want the odd style.
Yes, they have. I mean, A manager will be known for either being a good listener or being a poor listener, a fair manager or an unfair manager, somebody you can talk to, somebody you can't talk to, somebody that cares for you and somebody who doesn't, somebody who has empathy and somebody who doesn't. You'll be known by your reputation. And that's when you talk about the kind of things you're talking about, agility. It's so important. The manager does have a tough role these days. There's a lot to manage. There's no question of that. But it's doable. And you're far better to have your people with you than trying to get them with you. You want them with you. So talk to them. Make those times to ask, how are you? And wait long enough for an answer. How's your family? I mean, you get employees saying, crumbs, my manager actually asked me a personal question. And I'd say, what was that? He asked how I was. And I said, and he waited long enough for an answer. Well, you know, we all know what it's like. You're sort of dashing through the office or you're going through the car park and you say to somebody, hello, how are you? Fine. That's almost like one sentence. Hello, how are you? Fine. Well, how are you is valid. It's worthwhile to say, how are you really? And then you may have a conversation taking place. You're not going to be able to do that with 500 people. I get it. However, with the people that are closest to you, who may have teams of their own, bring about a culture of empathy, listening, being kind. And I mean being kind to people. I really mean that. Why not? Let us listen. Let's be kind to other people because you're going to get it back 100 times over. So having empathy. What is empathy? Having one foot in the other person's world. Have that empathy with them. Know what it's like for them who might be going through a bereavement, a difficult time, kids not well, whatever it may well be. Just do one thing. Listen. But let me just add on to that. Listen attentively.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful insights, Carole. We cannot talk about this conversation without bringing in the work-life balance. That's the big word that everybody, is talking about in the workplace. Again, let's start by defining what is work-life balance.
Work-life balance is probably different for everybody because for some people, they may want to do some of their work in the evening. Other people, they want to work during the day. It's getting a balance in your life where you actually can switch off from your daily activity. So if you're working every single day, then you need to make some time for yourself during the day. I'm not a believer in storing up your annual leave time and going away for a month, a year, and say that's all I need to do. That's not right. You need to get a balance in your life so that during the day you make some time for yourself. And then I can't tell you, Sarah, so many people say things to me like, oh, but I have no time. I say, you can't afford not to have time. You need to have that time. So your work-life balance is about looking after yourself, making time for you yourself. Because realistically, we are a machine. This one machine that we have is a machine. We have to look after ourselves because nobody else can do it for us. This is one thing you can't delegate. Your body, what you put into your body. If you eat badly, if you don't drink enough water, if you don't exercise, if you don't make time for yourself, if you don't learn how to say no, your body will suffer, period. It's going to. And work-life balance is a part of that. So you need to make yourself a priority in your life. You need to be the number one person because if you don't, very simply, nobody else can. They can't do it for you. So your work-life balance needs to be what you're happy with. Make time for yourself during the day. Grab that 10 minutes, not with a phone in your hand. Grab that 10 minutes and go for a walk to think about anything else other than work. Look at the trees, look at the flowers. Even if it's rain, look at the weather. Okay, a bit wet, but don't worry. All those sorts of things. But actually make that time for yourself. That's your work-life balance. Some people want to go swimming every week. Some people hate it. I don't want to go swimming every week. I'm not going to do that. But choose an activity that you enjoy. I have a dog. Dog loves it because I grab the dog, off we go. It's raining. I said, doesn't matter about rain. We'll go. Whatever gets you out there is great. So it's a bit like, look after yourself because nobody else can. He is your work-life balance. So if you turn off your phone, if you close your laptop, close it. Give yourself some time. Do not end up playing with your children with your phone in your hand, because that's the only way children will remember their childhood, is that you played on the floor or played Monopoly or whatever it was with a phone in your hand. That's not a good reputation to have. That's not a good memory to have. I remember my dad, my mum, playing with me on the floor, always had a phone in their hand, always talking to somebody. Not talking to me, but talking to somebody. So work-life balance, key. When you've switched off, switch off. Because if you don't, then you'll start experiencing tiredness. You'll start experiencing exhaustion. And you can even get to the point of burnout. So that can happen. So if you don't get your work-life balance right, and only you can do it, if you don't get it right, then that's what you're going to end up with. It's not difficult. It's a very slippery slope to burnout. Very slippery slope. And not getting enough sleep at night. You may think to yourself, oh, I can manage with only 6 hours sleep. And I'll say you may be. I say, actually, I can manage with 5 hours sleep. Okay. I say, okay, how many hours do you really need? Oh, my body loves 8 hours. So I said, so you're only having like 6 hours, 5 hours at the moment? Yeah, I am tired at the moment. Yes, I really am. It speaks for itself. Only you can get yourself that sleep. And there's many people, Sarah, who wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, who can't, just basically with things on their mind. And I'll say something simple like, a couple of tips there. First of all, have a pencil and paper next to your bed. I know it's very old-fashioned. I get it is, but so I'm going to go old-fashioned for a moment, which is pencil and paper next to your bed. Something's in your head, write it down, put it away, and go back to sleep. Another tip for sleeping at night is don't have your phones in your room. And then people will say to me, but I've got to have my phone, Carole, in the room. And I say, why? They say, because it's my alarm clock as well. And I say, don't worry about that. There are such things as alarm clocks that you can actually put next to your bed, which means, drum roll, we can actually get rid of that. And I say, what about? I said, what about what? And what about if I wake up in the night and I can't sleep? I said, well, the bad thing is to start using tech to help you back to sleep. You might listen to some music, but I'm saying social media, who's talking to who, the amount of traffic that is during the night on social media is huge. Absolutely huge. Who's talking to everybody? Why aren't you sleeping? And the part of the problem is that when you have your phone next to your bed, part of the problem is that your brain doesn't really switch off from it because it's just like, just in case. I said, you don't need just in case. Put it away. Leave it outside the bedroom. I know it's very dramatic what I said, but my recommendation is that you do exactly that. Try it. It may help. Don't forget your pencil and paper.
Love it. Such practical tips you bring to the conversation, Carole. And you know what I love the most about your definition of the work-life balance is that you're saying take care of yourself. Put yourself at the center. I know that I'm a mom. And when I think of work-life balance, let me tell you what comes to my mind. It's not necessarily me. It's me spending time with my kids. So it's me and. How do you sort of shift the thinking from that? Because you're also thinking, man, I haven't been around the little time that I have. Instead of having it to myself, let me have it with my kids or let me have it with my partner. How do you navigate that kind of thinking?
Well, it's really, you have to negotiate with yourself. So it's down to priorities. So in all of our lives, there are various things that we are doing. And you have to really, in some ways, again, put it down on pencil and paper. I'm a firm believer in writing things down. put down what's important to you. What is it you value the most? And if you start doing that, so you just got to prioritize your daily activity. What are you doing every day? And work, work, work. Well, for some people, it does seem like that. So therefore, prioritize all the things that you put a list down of all the things that you're doing. Let's start off with that. And then prioritize what is the most important to you. If everything was just to stop tomorrow morning, are you getting out of life what you want? Are you giving to the people who you love the most, friends, family, whoever it is, what it is that they want and what it is that they need? So really, it's a matter of prioritizing what you're doing and what's important to you. And there'll be different things for different people. Some people are workaholics. Why are they workaholics? Well, all sorts of reasons. Some of it could be using work as an escape from other things in their life. Some people could be doing it because there's not much else going on in their lives. Some people may not regard themselves as a workaholic, but nevertheless they are. So it's all, and some people get addicted to their adrenaline, which they just love that adrenaline rush. They just that's what they're addicted to, their adrenaline. And once you get that, it's very difficult to get off that Ferris wheel. Very hard indeed. So coming back to what you've said there, Sarah, is have your list. Make a list of what's important to you. And also then flag up what's the priority, what's important to you, and then what's the priority. What I'm putting forward, the tips and techniques, they're very small, but they can be very meaningful and they can make a very big difference. You know, I remember years and years ago when I was in training, somebody once says something to you, you remember it. And I remember somebody saying to me about time management, and I'm quite fussy. I'm very fussy about my time management. Not everybody is, but I am. And so I remember somebody saying to me, who was also very fastidious about their time management, which is, let's just get this right. If you're 10 minutes early, you are late. And that has stayed with me for years and years. And it's, you know, I have friends who sometimes are always late. It's just one of those things. That's little things like that. So if there's anything I'm saying today, little things like get your pencil and paper out for next to your bed, leave your phone outside the door, go for a walk and switch off from everything. Look at the trees, look at the flowers, make a phone call to somebody who maybe hasn't heard from you for a very, very long time. Exercise when you need to do that. These are tips. There's nothing groundbreaking in what I'm saying. But here's the however. However, people are not doing it. Are people listening and watching this doing it? Not necessarily. Could they improve? Yes, of course, everybody can improve. I'm the stress consultant. Can I improve as well? Of course. It's an ongoing process. So really know what it is that you like to do. Only put into practice what it is that you enjoy doing. You want to read a book. Oh, I don't never get round to reading. Carve out time. Carve 20 minutes out of your day to start that book that's been sitting on your bookshelf or next to your bed for the past 4 months. Do it. Just do it.
Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Such great nuggets you drop, Carole. Thank you so much, and very, very helpful and practical as well. As we start closing this conversation, let's consider how people then can sort of identify stress in their lives. How do you identify stress in your life?
I think it's really, everybody can recognize and does recognize the signs of stress. The only question is, Sarah, is what do they do about it? It is very easy to ignore your heart palpitations. It's very easy to ignore not sleeping at night. It's very easy to ignore being angry all the time and being aggressive. Yes, it's very easy to recognize. It's very easy to ignore the symptoms. You can't stop the symptoms. They are there. 100% the symptoms are there. The only question is, what do you do about it? Oh, I ignore it. It'll go away. It's just me. Well, do you know something? You know where you're going to end up? Doctor's surgery. The doctor's surgery, taking your blood pressure and saying to you, I think you need some medication. But the signs were there beforehand. People think they can beat the system, and they can't. Your body will catch up with it. You can't. So people think, oh, it's no problem. I'm working all the hours that God's gives me. I'm going to be doing this year, next year. They're not going to be. Your body can and will break down. And then you'll end up with burnout. And it takes you a very long time, if ever, to come back from burnout. Because when burnout happens, and burnout can happen to everybody, A-list celebrities, person down the road, prime ministers of New Zealand, people burn out, and they do. Were the warning signs there? Yes. Did they do anything about it? You know what I'm going to say? No.
Yeah. Hey, lots to think about and lots to reflect on. Thank you so much. You've brought so much value and just great challenge. People know the signs are there, but we ignore them. Let's talk about the event that you are organizing for November. Tell us more about that event.
Okay. As chair of a stress charity called the International Stress Management Association, I am putting on a global online stress summit online. So even in South Africa, you can come and join us. And we have 20 speakers, we have thought leaders, we have consultants, we have experts in their field who are all there to talk about one form or another. It's going to be men's health, it's going to be financial stress, it's going to be looking at bipolar, it's going to be looking at all the challenges that people have in their daily lives. So that is on Wednesday, the 1st of November, which also coincides with the 25th anniversary of Stress Awareness Day, which I established in 1998. So that is the day. It is included within the whole of Stress Awareness Week, which starts on the 30th of October until the 3rd of November. So the people around the world are doing something for Stress Awareness Week. So by all means, I'm doing loads of videos, I'm doing lots of conversations and lots of podcasts, lots of media interviews. Anybody wants to get in touch with me and have a conversation, with the greatest of pleasure. But the point of the point of the event is that we're trying to reduce the stigma that goes with having the stigma still associated with stress.
Wonderful, wonderful. And how do they get hold of the information regarding registration? Where do they find this information?
Okay, go on to our website, which is the usual, www.isma.org.uk. Or if you want to speak to me yourself, go into Google, put my name in there. You're going to find me all over the place. So put my name in, you'll find my email address and get in contact that way. An awful lot can be done through Zoom, through this kind of medium that we are today. The fact that you're in South Africa, the fact that I'm in London, is absolutely fine. It works. Always happy to do a call like this, a training session like this. A training session would comprise what I've spoken about today, but I'd go into it in more detail and more depth. And so that's also possible. So yes, Wednesday, 1st of November, www.isma.org.uk or Carole Spiers. That's easy.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, Carole, thank you so much. You have brought so much value, and you have also delivered quite a number of tools that people can actually latch onto and use in their personal lives to empower them and to just help them soldier through life without really living a stressful life. So I'm really, really grateful. Thank you for your time. Thank you for all your insights. It was an absolute pleasure engaging with you today.
My great pleasure. And thank you, Sarah, for the invitation. And let's make sure that South Africa and the UK come together on this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For now, it's ciao, ciao, Carole. Cheers.